welcome to the Monday, February 19th, 2024 City Council meeting. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 2 is approval of the minutes.
I move that we approve the minutes.
Second.
Rick,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
and Mary.
Yes. Item number 3 is the clerk treasurer report.
The council has received monthly statements from the banks, the financial reports for the month ending January 31st. And I would answer any questions you might have on that or at any time in the future.
Move that we approve the clerk treasurer's report.
Second.
Rick,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
and Mary.
Yes. Up next is item number 4, hearing of public concerns. Is there anyone who wants to come forward? Item number 5 is ordinance.
Ordinance number 4, 2024, an ordinance approving the collective bargaining agreement between the local union number 245 of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers and the City of Bryan Street Department.
Good evening.
Evening.
We have reached an agreement with IBEW and the street department. And I'd like to thank Judy Yaris, John Betts, and Mary Leatherman for their help on the negotiation team in settling the contracts. And if nobody has any questions, I'd ask that you approve the ordinance to pass the agreement.
I do have one question. Not being unfamiliar with the previous one, wasn't sure if there were any significant changes or anything between the
This
previous
is
one.
the first,
This is the first.
this is
Oh,
the
I'm
first
sorry.
contract they've
So
had.
yes, significant changes.
Well, yeah, there are significant changes. Okay. Well, thank you for that. Appreciate that update.
Yeah. I will say IBEW also represents our wastewater employees, and so a lot of the contract language was very similar to that, and that is several years into their contract. What we really dealt with were wages, some equipment and clothing allowance changes that were different than the handbook, and the majority of it pretty much followed wastewater. I think we changed a little bit of call-out time, but pretty consistent actually with what you were doing already that just wasn't in policy.
Right.
Well, I'll move to suspend.
I'll second.
Rick,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
and Mary.
Yes.
We need to approve, right? And I move to approve?
Second.
Steve,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
and Mary.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Item number 6 is a resolution. John, please number and read.
Resolution number 12, 2024, a resolution providing for the repayment of an interfund cash advance. Earlier in 2023, we advanced money from the Capital Improvement Fund to the Safe Routes to School Project Fund. And in anticipation of grant funding coming in, that has all occurred. The project is done, and now this is just to clean up the 415 fund, which was the Safe Routes to School, and to reimburse the 401 fund for the money they advanced. It advanced.
I'll move to suspend.
I'll second.
John?
Yes.
Steve?
Nope, it was Rick.
Oh, I'm sorry, John,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
and Mary.
Yes.
I'll move to adopt.
I'll second.
Rick,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
and Mary.
Yes. Item number 7 is enough for the resolution. John, please number and read.
Resolution number 13, 2024, a resolution authorizing Carrie Schlade as delegate and Richard Long as alternate to represent the City of Bryan as a member of the Board of Directors of the Ohio Municipal Electric Association in 2024.
Council, this is an annual resolution. At times, there's been a different member from BPA, but BPA, I think, will follow suit tomorrow and pass for Mr. Long to be my alternate. This is, again, the board we sit on for AMP, and I am part of that executive committee as well on that board of 3. So I'd appreciate your approval for that. I think Mr. Long is going to fill in for me in June, I hope. But I obviously try to go to as many meetings as I can to represent the city, and when I can't, I appreciate Mr. Long's availability and willingness.
You to suspend?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll move to suspend.
Second?
John?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
And Mary?
Yes.
I'll move to approve?
Second?
Steve?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And Mary?
Yes. Item number 8 is a resolution. John, please number and read.
Resolution number 14, 2024, a resolution to accept $10,329 donation from Bryan Swim Team Association to the Parks and Recreation Department for pool heaters.
Yeah, good evening. Towards the end of last year at Moore Pool, we actually lost our heater. And with that size of body of water, without a heater, the water can be extremely cold. We'd reached out to the swim team to see if they would go in on the project to replace the heater at Moore Pool, which is where they compete primarily. And they made this donation to help offset the cost of replacing the heater at Moore Pool.
What's the total cost then?
Right around 30.
I'll move that. Is this a suspension too? Yeah. I'll move to suspend.
I'll second.
John?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
And Mary?
Yes.
I'll move to approve.
And I'll second.
Rick?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And Mary?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you, Ben.
Item number 8 is a resolution. John, will you please number and read? Please number 9.
Resolution number 15, 2024, a resolution to accept a $37,950 donation from various sponsors to the Parks and Recreation Department for the Fountain City Amphitheater.
Again, as you guys are all aware, the Fountain City Amphitheater runs solely on donations from the community of Bryan and the surrounding communities. So this is another donation, multiple donations to help cover the cost of the 2024 calendar season out at the amphitheater. I do want to draw your attention in the Fountain City Amphitheater. Obviously would like to thank Bard Manufacturing for their large donation to bring the sidewalk profits to Bryan. Without Bard's support, to bring a group like this would be extremely difficult, and they stepped forward and wanted to do this. The Sidewalk Prophets are a contemporary Christian band that will come to the amphitheater on June 1st at 7 p.m. So along with the Bards, the Fountain City Amphitheater is extremely excited to have Sidewalk Prophets perform in Bryan this summer.
I'll move to suspend.
I'll second.
John?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
And Mary?
Yes.
I'll move to approve.
Second?
Steve?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And Mary?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Item number 10 is an ordinance. John, please number and read.
Ordinance number 5, 2024, an ordinance providing for annual appropriations for the city of Bryan for the fiscal year ending December 31, 2024, and declaring an emergency. The items in this amended appropriation are to authorize the expenditure of the funds that Mr. Dominic just spoke of, those donated funds. And then there's a small piece in here that needs to be appropriated to complete the cleanup of that Safe Routes to Schools fund. So just kind of another part of that.
Discussion now or after the suspend?
Discussion now is fine.
So with the sidewalks to schools, this would finish up that project?
It finishes up the accounting.
The accounting
for
of it,
the
okay.
project. Yep, there's to be a little bit of money left in that project fund that needs to go back to the main capital improvement fund, but in order to make that transfer, it has to be
For
appropriated.
sure, yeah.
Yep,
We have a second phase that we're working on with ODOT for that. This was the first.
yeah, and that'll be a separate accounting mechanism, but yeah, this cleans up the first grant.
I'll move to suspend.
Second.
Steve,
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Rick? And Mary?
Yes.
Move to approve?
Second.
Rick? John?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
And Mary?
Yes. Item number 11 is negotiations committee appointment.
Yes, council. When we did committees at the first meeting of the year, there was discussion on a couple other council members taking over that negotiating team. It was previously John Betts and Judy Harris. Do want to make a point of that with the street department. Mary did not come on until Judy's term was up, so there was at no point a quorum for council in any of this negotiation. I think the initial discussion was to ask Mary and Jim to be on that committee. Jim's not here this evening, so we can either, you guys can discuss and approve that, or you can wait till he's here.
I think we should wait for him to be here.
Okay, so we can put it on the next month's, or next, yeah, in March. We'll go ahead and put that back on, just so he can have that discussion. With that being said, and I know I thanked Judy when her term was up, but would like to thank John Betts. We've had a lot of work with negotiations this past year, and quite frankly, the 2 other years that he served on the negotiating committee.
Yeah.
I believe there were 2 brand-new contracts in the city, as well as 4 that were renewed. So that is days off and working around his bus schedule and other life schedules that he has donated to the city, because you guys don't get paid for those when you're in committee. So just want to express appreciation, really, to John and Judy and all of you. You know, we have you guys sit for days on budget committee and other things, and just appreciate your willingness to give your time to the city for that.
And I think this next year, is it just?
Just fire.
Just fire, which is a.
It's this year,
this
towards the
year,
end of
and
the year.
It's a
Renewal,
renewal, which is substantially different than
brand new,
brand new.
yes.
No, I think that's appropriate.
Okay,
Wait.
so we'll
I mean,
just
as
add,
much as I'd like to stick it to Jim. Well, I think it's more appropriate to wait.
Yeah, I'll do it in person.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
and I do with, I just want to add too,
Exactly.
and it's not on the agenda because I didn't know till this morning, Mr. Kozublik is ill. It is your choice whether you guys address that as an excused or an unexcused absence.
Well, he's ill.
He's,
Excuse
right,
my mind.
correct. So, I just didn't know if you wanted to put that on the record, since we haven't done it in the past, but our charter does say 3 unexcused absences for council is an
Oh.
issue.
So do you need a motion or something?
Just a motion to excuse him this
I
evening.
move that we excuse Mr. Closenblick and then stick it to him at the next meeting.
Okay. I'm going to do my best to add that to the March agenda and remember. Might send Christie an email right now.
I'll second it.
But
Not
not
sure
the
about the
stick
stick it
to,
Yeah, not sure about the stick it to him, but yeah.
Yeah, give yourself some more years.
give yourself some time, Mr. Oswald.
John?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Rick? And Mary?
Yes. Thank you. Up next is annual reports, and I have engineering first on my agenda.
We can do that. And my PowerPoint does not follow your annual
Of
report.
course it doesn't. Thanks.
I don't like people leafing through. I'd
You're
like
gonna
them-
have to
I'd
nod
like
to
them
me
to
then.
listen. So, our annual report for the year, go ahead and flip to the next slide. That's pictures of all my staff. Some of them are kind of old. I think I was a few pounds lighter in that one, but Tiana, Patrick, Scott, Dawn, Andrew, Cliff. Cliff actually tonight is his last day physically at the city. He's going to officially retire on February 29th, but today is his last working day. So wish him well if you see him on his way out. Next slide, please.
I'm trying to send Christie a message because she's my reminder for this.
Gotcha. Basically, I highlight all my projects. Asphalt program.
So we could thank him.
Cliff?
He's done an outstanding job. I've
Yeah.
heard from the community on an ongoing basis.
Yes,
how
please.
much better the, certain streets, I probably shouldn't mention. Like
Certain areas of town. If you look in his office, he's got a map on there with green dots, yellow dots, and red dots. Green dots are areas that have been taken care of. Yellow is in process, and red is we're going to court, it needs action. And it's neat seeing the reds and yellows turn to green throughout the year. So may I invite you all to stop over anytime and take a look at it. It still has areas on there that he's working on. Okay, so projects last year, the asphalt program, Gherkin paving, $634,000 came out of the 0.5% income tax. And if you remember, it was parts of Edgerton, Walnut, North Williams, East Bryan, East Trevitt, North Beach, and Page Streets. The next project we're going to highlight that we did,
Yep, got it. It's there.
the pavement marking program. That's a standard program we do every year. Costs about $115,000, again, out of the 0.5% income tax. This year's project will be slightly higher. I anticipate maybe $10,000 more because we are actually going to restripe North and South Main Street. When that was redone 7, 8, 9 years ago, it was thermoplastic and it's since lost its reflectivity. So we will be redoing that project. Next slide, Safe Routes to School sidewalk project. Final cost was $382,000. We got $337,000 back in grant funds, and that was the item that John had clarified with you guys. We'll discuss next year's Safe Routes to School project coming up here in a little bit. South Lynn Street Storm, a smaller project, $92,000. There was, I think, 12 homes that we extended storm sewer to and added storm taps. We had a few people that wanted to put their downspouts into tile. We did not have tile in the area, so we try and address small areas like that. And again, we didn't repave that street, we just patched it, and you can see there's a patch there in the road where the tap went across the road. South Portland Street Extension, that was one of the big ones out of our budget, out of the 0.5%. Dangler Excavating, first time ever working in the city for me. They did a great job, $736,000, and if you know, it connects Portland Street to Fountain Grove Drive. I won't say it's fairly heavily traveled, but it is traveled quite a bit. I haven't had any complaints that I know of speeders down there. It seems to be pretty much flawless. Western Bryan Sanitary Sewer. Now that was a 2-year project. It was bid in April of '22. SDS Directional Boring did that. Final cost $2.153 million. We did receive $2.1 million in grant funds that came through the Ohio Water and Sewer Infrastructure Grant. We've since applied for a few more of those projects this year. The funding opportunity has opened up again, so we'll see if we can be good in that. And that project was completed May of '23. Another similar project, Western Bryan Sanitary, it was right adjacent to the $2.1 million project. We had secured grant funds for that as well through Ohio Public Works. Half the project, so it was $465,000 cost. $232,000 came back through Ohio Public Works, completed in June of '23. And we had to bid that separate from the other one because it was 2 different funding sources. But fortunately, the same contractor got both, rolled from one end to the other. It seemed like one big project, and everything was done. Code enforcement. This is what Cliff has been doing for us. I have a number in parentheses, which was last year's numbers, just so you don't get confused on there. The biggest things we look at is the items that are in red. He had 237 cases he investigated, 211 were resolved, and 26 are still pending. And still pending means we're struggling getting a hold of people, or there's court action actually taking place. He's doing a great job, and on the left side there is, what he's done. Junk motor vehicles, trash violations, verbal and written warnings, and actual citations. So pretty important to have him around here. He did take some duties away from the engineering office as far as like we assign grass violators to him and whatnot, and a few structural things. So he's lightened our load a little bit. And obviously, being a peace officer, he lightened the police department's load as well. We are trying to look for a replacement for him, but we're struggling. So we'll see what we can do.
Now would probably be a good time to bring him on. You
He's
think?
here.
He is here.
Cliff,
Here.
He's hiding in the back.
we would like you to come up front here. Being your last.
Did Captain Mendez not tell you why you were coming up?
No, you said I was requested to come up.
That is
You-
a true statement.
You were asked by
Yeah,
council to
you
come
were
up. They
requested.
wanted to address you
Yes.
on your last physical working day.
I wanted you to at least hear from me publicly, up to the rest who, what they want to do, that I've heard over the last 3 years, 4, 5, how things are getting better in Bryan. And when I push that and ask better, they come up with, I'm still not going to use certain areas of the city that have gotten better looking. And I tell them that's attributed to you. I also have a father, had a father, excuse me, who was Center Township zoning person. So I have a fair handle on the difficulty of approaching a property that needs addressed. And that's not always pleasant. And so there's diplomatic mediation skills versus just going in, writing a ticket, and saying, hey, clean this mess up, you slob, which I know you do not do, and I certainly appreciate. So I appreciate not only the outcome, but the process, and we will miss you. But besides that, I don't want to overlook your service with the police department either, which was a much longer standing. So thank you for all you've done for Bryan over the last number of years.
Thank you.
19 years I've been here, and I've known you all 19. I haven't had the honor of knowing the role that you were doing with the city in regards to this, but I've known you as an officer. I've worked with you as an officer. We've handled some things together through the school, and I will tell you, it's always been an honor. It was great the first night I walked in here and I saw you standing downstairs. It was good to see you, because I felt like it had been forever since I seen you. So it was good to see you there, and it really has been. It's been an honor to work with you all this time.
Same here, sir.
And you will appreciate his title. We called it the Cub Officer for Curb Urban Blight. Little play off the Golden Bears. Or Clean Up Bryan. That was his acronym.
John said it very well, that the city is better for you doing the job that you've been doing for the last several years, and certainly appreciate everything that you've done. And the only question I have is, how am I going to get in the door downstairs?
That's a good question.
We're working on that with Captain Mendez.
That's a good question.
In all seriousness, I do appreciate everything that you've done, and you've certainly made a difference in the city of Bryan. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for everything you've done. You're going to be missed so much. I mean, you've done a fantastic job for the city as a police officer and as a clerk. So thank you very much for that, and enjoy your retirement.
Thank you very much.
And Cliff, I want to publicly thank you too. When I first became mayor, one of the big hot topic buttons for that race and afterwards was some of the areas of the community that needed cleaned up, and zoning enforcement was a struggle. Very hard, as you know, as a police officer, to dedicate time to that when you're running from call to call. And you took that position with a lot of grace. You have communicated with the public very well. Even people that you have visited often have called me and said, you know, I hate it when he shows up, but we always have great discussion, and I know where I need to go with this. And they've become a fan of you, which is saying something to your decorum and demeanor in communicating with our citizens. So I loved your organization. Anytime I walked by your office, you had your certified letters all ready to go, and you had your documentation for everything and the things you wanted to just kind of keep an eye on, and then your board of your yellow, green, and red pinpoints. I mean, if I ever wanted to know what Cliff was doing, I just had to walk into his office whether he was there or not, and it's very laid out and clear. And that's one thing that we talked about when we decided to create this position, when Bryan and I were communicating with it with the police department, is, you know, it was kind of created for Cliff because we also knew he's a very self-motivated individual that does not need anyone to ask him to do parts of his job. He goes out and he does it. And so honestly, he managed himself exceptionally well, as we knew he would. But we really do appreciate everything you've done for the community, and we are really hoping that we can find someone to take that position, because it's something that is very important to the community as a whole. Bryan and I we had a industry visit. Obviously, we didn't get that, but the gentleman, we drove from the North Industrial Park down Mulberry to BMU and around here, and he commented, and he was from the other side of the country, and commented on how clean and neat our entire community was. And that's not something you usually hear for people that want to put up an industrial site. Usually they don't even think about it. That's how apparent it was to him, and that's a compliment to you. So thank you. We will miss you. And I wish you and Marilyn a lot of fun times.
Appreciate the opportunity. Thank you very much.
Enjoy.
Wait, did he just hand his keys to you?
No, this is the contractor's
I was
letter.
like, wait a minute, what just
Wasn't the
happened?
official handoff.
What just happened?
Like, wow, it's just that quick. So, okay, Code and Zoning Division. This is Andrew. Talks about the commercial projects he's had, residential and permits, and then violations that he actually had, which was structures and pools. You can see the numbers that were corrected, pending, and citations issued, and 161 warnings issued down there. We do a lot of warnings, like surface coating on your house. If the paint's peeling, the code says if you're missing 10% of the paint on your house, you're in violation. Well, it doesn't take much to have 10% missing. So we'll give people warnings and say, hey, look, your roof's getting bad, your house is getting bad. You may want to think about this in the next few years. So, you'll see a high number of warnings issued, but that's what those are. They're just warning letters saying, hey, you're on our radar. You might want to try and take care of this in the next few years if you can. So it seems high, but that's why. Other tasks, we take care of the traffic control devices and signage. We assist utilities office with bidding and design of their water line projects. We help wastewater and parks with capital projects, assist the street department, and obviously zoning and building departments are in-house. So I just want to highlight some grants. The top red items here are 23-24 grants that we've applied for, received, and will be spending for the most part in 2024. We were fortunate enough to receive an extra $275,000 through Ohio Public Works for South Myers Sanitary Sewer. That'll be a 50-50 share, cost share on that. We already asked permission to bid that project, but we won't bid it until June because the grant actually isn't released until July, but we've officially been awarded it. We received an extra $400,000 for Safe Routes to School Phase 2. The design is finalized. We're working on acquiring any easements that we need right now. That will be all submitted to ODOT by, I think, August or September, and we will be bidding that project in January of '25. So that'll be a '25 construction. And the project that 2 months ago, early in January, was awarded through Bryan Municipal Utilities. We had around $275,000 and $265,000 of grant funds towards their Lynn Street Waterline project for, it was a $800,000, $900,000 project, somewhere in that range. So we got probably 65% of that project funded for them as well. So $1.1 million received that we'll be spending this year, and last year carryover projects was $2.7 million in grant funds that we received that year. So almost $4 million over a 3-year span here of grant funds that we've been fortunate enough to get, and I'm proud of that. 24 goals, again, obviously apply for more grant funds. Do more joint water and pavement projects. And I discussed that because through Ohio Public Works, we rank higher with water line projects. There's a higher need, the criteria is higher, so I try and piggyback on their water line projects, try and get some paving projects done at the same time. So we try and eyeball certain projects there that would have the need for both. Obviously more sanitary sewer replacement. I know we did almost $3 million in the last year in sanitary sewer, and as you heard Wes say a couple weeks ago, he thinks it's been making a difference. His flows are down, infiltrations are down, so we need to keep working on that. And East Village roadway repairs and rehab. We've talked about that for a couple years, and we're actually going to bid a project. I know we've done a couple test strips out there in an area, and I know two of you in this room are quite familiar with the location of those projects, but we're going to do a large project there, obviously, and continue those test strips. And obviously continue on the commercial and industrial wastewater, clean water investigations, which helps the wastewater department out as well. Other than that, any questions?
I do have one question.
Sure.
Simple one. Horton Heights.
Yes.
I was looking for that on the map and through through social media, good Lord, no, through the internet, that's what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
Help me.
That is, Horton Heights is the platted subdivision that it's called. So it's basically Oakwood, Newdale Circle, everything east of John Street and west of Avenue B area. It was a large sanitary sewer project we had done last year. So north of the pool in that area.
Thanks.
So,
That was
yep.
good. Appreciate that.
All right. Thank you.
Up next
Good evening.
Evening.
Mine too is, the PowerPoint is different than what you have in front of you.
These are tested.
Not by a bunch, but it is a little bit different, so go through mine. First of all, our mission statement is obviously to create strong ties within the Bryan community in order to achieve diverse leisure experiences, preserve and utilize the natural beauty of our environment, and to enhance the quality of life. That's what we strive for. That's what we're trying to do for our community and the surrounding communities. But through the parks is to provide a better quality of life for the citizens of Bryan. My 2023 staff, Bruce Wheeler is my assistant director, Cindy Rao, our administrative assistant, April Smith has come on as our horticulturist and arborist, Greg Hartman, Tony Scanlon, and Brandon Sullivan all work in the park maintenance. They all have specialties, but we're maintenance. And then Holly Sproul is our preschool teacher. Bruce and I are extremely fortunate to have the staff that we work underneath of us. They're very caring about what goes on in our parks and the quality of parks that we provide for the citizens of Bryan. We couldn't do it without this group. So we're very fortunate to have the people that work for us, and we're very thankful for the time and hours that they put in to help us preserve the parks here in Bryan. A couple boards that work underneath of me. You've heard me say the last couple meetings, our park board has not been as active in the past, since COVID, as what we would like it to be. That is something we are working on in 2024. But in front of you is my 2023 park board. Renee Isaac, Dave Batt, Emily Ebal, Kelly Voigt, Paula Klein. When we reorganize in 2024, Dave Batt and Kelly Voigt are coming off of the park board. So we filled those two positions, and we plan to start meeting on a regular basis like we did prior to COVID. Another commission works underneath of me is the Tree Commission. Mick McCarnes, Paula Klein, Dennis Harrison, Dave Schum, Helene Moog, April Fix, and April Smith and Phil Fix is our ad hoc member. This committee is really run by April, and it's all about the trees, the landscaping, that kind of design. So they do a good job of making sure that we stay Tree City, Growth Award, all those kinds of things. They also are responsible for the annual Arbor Day festivities, so they put those programs on for the schools and the school kids. In your booklet you get from me, you'll have all of our different attendance numbers, participation numbers, things like that. The one thing that I would like to stress to you is our numbers aren't exact. We rely on the people sometimes that use our facilities to give us numbers and things like that. The other thing you should know too is we count every person when they come. So if we offer a class 3 times and you come 3 times, we count you 3 times. So sometimes that can be a little bit misunderstood or misleading as far as our numbers. But the first pie chart you have here is our total usage. We estimate our total usage to be around 148,000 users throughout the Parks and Recreation Department. Classes, meetings, workshops, exercise, anything you can think of that we offer is wrapped into this chart. And then I break them out as to kind of where they're at. The community center, East End, we still use school gyms, our shelters, our pools, McDonald Ruff, and then our Fountain City Amphitheater. So we try to give you a good idea of where everything is located at, and so you can kind of see what gets used and what doesn't get used and kind of go from there. The next bar chart that you have that goes along with that is the 5-year averages that go along with that. You can see we're up from 2022, and you can see kind of a steady incline from the 2020 pandemic. So we feel like things are starting to come back, gradual, but starting to come back to more normal prior to the pandemic. You can see in 2019, we estimated we had 160,000 users. So we're starting to work back towards that, just not there quite yet. So, but we're pleased with where things are headed. The next thing I break down for you is the usage of our shelters and pavilions. Again, we estimated we had about 22,000 users of our pavilions over the course of the summer. Again, the pavilions we have are East End, Garver, Hitt, JC, Maddie, Moore, Roseland, and then we have 3 pavilions that are located in Moore Park. We call them pavilions 1, 2, and 3. We break them apart for you so you can see what kind of gets used. Matty Marsh is our lowest user, one of our lowest users. JC is obviously the highest user. East End gets used a lot, but it gives you an idea again of everything gets used. It's pretty close in all of our numbers as to what's being used. So I think it shows a diversity within the parks. It's not just one park that's used. All of our parks, all of our pavilions get usage. Again, the next thing I have for you there is the the bar chart that shows our 5-year usage. Again, just like the total usage, we are starting to see the incline, starting to go back up. Not quite to where we were in 2019 before the pandemic, but we do feel like they are starting to head in that direction. We are, obviously developing Lincoln Park. So we hope there'll be some pavilions and things like that there that will help this number continue to increase as we move forward. The next pie chart I put in there for you is our pool activities, swim lessons, passes, rentals, swim team, swim meets, anything that happens at the two pools, you can see there. We estimated we had about 17,000 users this past summer. Moore Pool is always our biggest user, but I would caution you that Moore Pool has all the swim stuff. They get all the swim meets, they get all the swim practices, they get all the swim lessons. East End has some dive meets and things like that, but nowhere near the number of kids participating in dive that we have on the swim team. So although that really looks kind of out of whack, we still feel like when it's general mission and things like that, both pools serve a purpose, and both are used on a daily basis or every other day, the way the schedule's set up. Again, last thing I throw in there when it comes to the pools is our daily usage and our 5-year average. So we went down a little bit at the pools this year. It is a trend that we feel like we continue to see. I think there's more residential pools. I think you go to friends' houses and swim as opposed to coming to the city pool. But we'll continue to monitor this and kind of see where our numbers go. But it is an area that Bruce and I kind of have our eye on because there seems to be maybe started in a downward trend as far as the city pools go. So we'll keep you up to speed on that, and if we can put our finger on what it is or why it is, then we'll obviously make some adjustments for that. The last thing I put in there, as far as the charts go, I do throw in the Fountain City Amphitheater. We break it into 3 different groups at the amphitheater. We do concerts, we do programs, magicians, things like that, and then we also have the worship services. We estimate we had close to just over 14,000 visitors to the amphitheater this summer. That would not take into account anybody that's just randomly out there to use the fountains. We don't really have a way to put a number on usage at the fountains, but I will tell you the fountains are always busy. There's always kids out there all summer long. So we're extremely pleased. This number is up from last year. Obviously, a girl named Tom played a large role in that, but again, we have another big group coming this summer, so we hope to continue to see growth at the amphitheater. Last couple sheets I put in there for you are park donations. Over the last year, we estimate that we've brought in almost $430,000 in donations. A lot of that is Lincoln Park. We also have a large donation from the Bryan Girls Softball Association for the new press box. So it just gives you an idea of what people give and the amount of money they're willing to give to the parks to continue to move our parks forward. The very last thing I have there for you is our 2023 amphitheater donations. As I mentioned earlier this evening, the amphitheater is run strictly on donations. So every dollar we bring in for the amphitheater goes right back into the amphitheater through acts, through advertising, through whatever we can do to continue to grow the amphitheater. Last year we brought in almost $46,000 or just over $46,000 for the amphitheater. I think we had a really good summer of events, and was extremely busy at the amphitheater. So we look forward to continuing to try to keep the amphitheater growing. That is what I have. Questions? No? Thank you.
Tell April, nice reports, by the way.
Absolutely, will do.
I
Thank
just
you.
wanted, I laughed at a couple of her comments.
Yeah.
So those were good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, some of the streets.
Last and least?
Last but not least.
Okay, I'm ready. So in the winter of 2023, between plowing and spreading of salt, we spread 588 tons at a cost of $35,662. And there it says we did not use any brine last year because of the rain, which we didn't, because, I don't know if you remember last winter, every time before it snowed, it rained. So there was no point in spraying any brine because it would just get washed away and do nothing. So we didn't. And then there's our employees and their years of service to the city.
Were you going to go list them? Sorry.
No,
Was
that's
I
fine.
going too fast?
We can go faster. That's our routine duties of the street department. One thing to point out, with working along with the city arborist, April Smith, we removed 39 hazardous terrace trees last year and stumps. Okay. And then pothole patching, the Durapatcher, which everybody remembers what that is, everybody's favorite piece of machinery that we have. We use 3,250 gallons of emulsion at a cost of $7,133. And the sewer crew cleaned and televised 16,787 feet, or 3.2 miles of sanitary sewer in 2023. Out at the old recycling, which is now just a compost facility, we took in 400 tons of compost and gave away 280 tons of composted material. And at the cemetery, we had 35 burials and we poured 25 bases for the headstones.
I'd also like to note the donation of the benches from the VFW too.
Yes.
That was a great end of the year donation from them.
Are all of our sewers, have they been videoed then? Or not? We still got a lot.
They all have been within the last 4 or 5 years, but we're supposed to do a quarter of the town every year.
Oh, you are, okay, so you
Yeah.
have a mandate to do. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
With that, we'll go around the room. Mayor, do you have anything?
No, just want to thank the 3 department heads. No, but yes, I want to thank the 3 department heads for their annual report and they and their staff for their continued work for the community. Everybody's doing a great job. Appreciate them all.
John, do you have anything?
I don't, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, I'm
Not
sorry.
The other John.
That
Sorry,
John.
the other John.
The important John.
The man with the numbers.
Yeah.
Bryan, do you have anything?
Nothing more to add.
Captain, do you have anything?
No, ma'am.
Chief, do you have anything?
Nothing.
Tyson?
No, ma'am.
Ben?
No, thank you.
BPA? Newspaper? No.
Woo. Yeah, I'd like to thank the Bryan Swim Team Association for their donation to the Parks and Pool for the heater. I know that I'm sure their participants are going to be very happy to dive into something that's not going to chill them to the bone, and appreciate their efforts to that end. Also, those donating to the amphitheater, all those folks, especially the Bards, Pam and Bill, and their employees, but Pam and Bill direct this on an ongoing basis. Their commitment to Bryan is unwavering and outstanding, quite frankly, and they're just good people, period. Also like to thank Bryan and Ben and Tyson for their annual reports, and a special thanks to Cliff for his years of beautification of Bryan. And I want to wish the best to all of the Bryan City School winter athletic folk, because I don't even want to go into each one. That's why I want to say the whole winter group, because they're going to be entering tournaments, diving and swimming at all different levels. And they just do themselves and the city of Bryan proud with their prowess. And that's good.
Tyson, thank you for your patience with me on the question about collective bargaining, but it is nice to see that we've got that and then that's in place. The amphitheater, wonderful to see that we've got that. It's nice to see that it's being used, it's being utilized in a variety of different ways, especially when you see that we've got a group like Sidewalk Prophets coming in. That's a big name in regards to contemporary Christian music, and so that's impressive to see them in. And thank you to Bard for making that a possibility. I want to say thank you to Cliff. I think I told him earlier, I've known him for 19 years. He's just an impressive man, an impressive person in regards to how he communicates and how he operates and just the way he thinks. And I can't count the number of times I appreciated seeing him and having a conversation with him in regards to an issue that we were dealing with at the school. His whole thought process is just so valuable. And I could see how that would carry over well into what he was doing for the engineering department and the way he was approaching things and stuff. So that just is great to know. Again, the value of the grants and the donations, those are impressive. People really don't see and hear a lot in regards to that. So that's a wonderful thing. And it's amazing to sit up here and listen to all the collaboration between the department heads and the different departments, what they're doing. It's amazing. We stress all the time the importance of collaboration and the fact that it's actively happening. It's not just talked about, but it's actually happening is incredible and so valuable. And on top of that, just the reports from Tyson and Bryan and Ben and just all the things that I get to learn about up here. There's so much that in 4 meetings I've learned about the city of Bryan, even though I've lived here 19 years, to learn so much about what we're doing and the people that are involved and the service that they are providing to the people of the city of Bryan is just so impressive. So it's wonderful to hear it, and I can't thank you all enough for all that you do.
I guess for starters, I just wanted to second the comments about Bard and the Steele family and their contribution to the city of Bryan as a whole, as well as the amphitheater. But thank you to all of the donors. I don't want them to be left out in all of that, because it is important, and the amphitheater is certainly a big plus for the city of Bryan. I want to thank the negotiations team. Great job. I know that can be a time-consuming effort and sometimes can get contentious. And the contract looks good, and I appreciate that. Thank you, of course, to the Bryan swim team for their generous donation towards the heaters. And thank you to Bryan Whelan, Ben Dominic, and Tyson Engstrom. You guys do a great job. And I know we keep saying that every year, but it's true. You guys do a great job, and the city of Bryan is better because of the efforts that you put into it. And sometimes you're doing jobs that nobody else would want to do, but we certainly appreciate that you're there and your people are there doing those jobs for us every day. So thank you very much.
I also would like to thank the Bryan swim team, and also thank the donations to the Amphitheater. I wish I would have thought of this when Cliff was up here, but years ago when he was a police officer and I was lining up the parade, and I had to run, and I come back and I said, gosh, I can't believe I can still run at my age. And he looks at me and goes, that was impressive.
As dry as can be.
I really wish I would have said that in front of this. When we were talking about county years, you know, and for him to say that he was a police officer, so that'd be like 2019 he said that to me, so, I never can forget that when, I look at him. Other than that, I don't have anything, we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Steve,
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
and Mary.
Yes.